I feel like the best people just got better.
There will now be, as we have a label that says made with AI, there will also be like the label, like a human made this.
You're drastically simplifying every other aspect of like how that product is unique and the audience that they're going after. You don't even know if it's a winning ad for them.
Is that the value on being a good creative just rose even higher?
I don't even look at it as if your job's gone. I just look at it as if the expectation of the quality of assets and the expectation of the volume of assets just rose. So this is the Grandfathers. Let's dive in. All right, so the conversation that has dominated group chats, Slack channels, and much of the marketing conversation this week is this new concept of vibe marketing, of people using the new ChatGPT model and some of these other tools to basically replace a lot of the common creative work and jobs that many people do. And here in this episode, we're going to discuss, is any of this actually good? Does any of this actually make output that people could use in marketing? And then when people go, look at this is going to change and replace jobs, what are they missing as far as nuance? We'll also top into some of the top campaigns of the week. But this is a conversation we're all passionate about because we're all paying attention to these tools. We are all in the middle of this. We've had careers that have spanned the inclusion of tools that have disrupted things before. And also it's really fun to look at some of these vibe marketing images.
Let's dive in. We are not AI generated characters. We are real human beings who are discussing real marketing, real vibes.
Well, Jordan used ChatGPT for the first time yesterday, so this will be we'll have a boomer take in here for sure.
Yeah, Jordan was discovering ChatGPT in real time as we were discovering vibe marketing. He was like, "Wow, it just answers questions."
I gotta be honest, y'all. I've dabbled with ChatGPT before, and it's given me honestly every time I give it something, like it gives me something wrong back, and I can use my critical thinking and media literacy to know that it's not exactly right. So I have not found specific use cases that have made everything, like it's not this panacea that so many people promise. However, this week we did discover some very interesting things, including useless thumbnails using the image generator.
Look, and this is a good, like I've always avoided this. Like I rarely talk about AI in my content. I rarely want to join in this conversation for this exact kind of reason, where I feel like a lot of people spend a lot of time on working on these tools and they waste a lot of that time because it was not at the point where it was actually generating value and they were just doing it to feel like they're ahead or do whatever. And really none of the output was actually that useful. But now I think this is where the corner of that starts to turn. So Ashwin, do you want to share some stuff? You want me to share some stuff first? What do you think is best there?
Yeah, I'll pull up some stuff.
Perfect. Yeah, we're going to go through some of these ads and things that people have shown and just talk a bit about like, hey, is this actually usable? Is this actually good or bad? What does this mean? All right, what you got?
All right, so first ad, what do we think? Someone says the game has forever changed. This is her brand, Get Dirty. What do we think looking at this?
My biggest question when I see this is that package accurate to size?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a fitness? What is it? Hydration packets?
I have no idea what it is.
I have so many questions. Get Dirty is the supplement. What supplement do we think would?
I don't know if it's a supplement. I think it's probably like wipes. They're probably like, you know, if you put the name together with the wipes, you could probably.
Can you click on the image, or no?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. What does it say? Great something.
So the text, it says the text, especially when there's detail, like often doesn't render right. You have to try to re-prompt it a number of times. So I'm not terribly impressed with the packaging here, but the visual of the person is pretty strong.
But like you could do that in Midjourney a week ago. So to me, this is nothing new. Move on to the next one. This isn't actually useful replacing anything.
I will say though, I think ChatGPT, I think the reason this got like such big, because you're right, Midjourney has been able to do these things for, I mean, it feels like over a year or so, but ChatGPT I just think is the most commonly used one, and to this point has been text, and so it is pretty wild what it can output with just a simple text prompt.
Yeah, I also think it's just like, how many people do you know that are actively in Discord on a daily basis?
Exactly.
Well, Midjourney's out of Discord for what it's worth.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's a desktop app. It's been that way for a while.
Yeah. So I was on like the early thing in the Discord, and I just don't use Discord that much. So
and to be fair, so what is actually impressive about this? Obviously there's bigger ChatGPT adoption than there is for Midjourney. And there's the idea of like, hey, you can put in a picture of your product and you can put in a picture of something else and like combine them or throw them together. And then the output is more actually useful and has like typography. All right, this is a good one. Let's dive into this.
So here's the prompt that the person gave. Nike ad campaign. Main focus is a composition of Nike running shoes. here's the text that I want in the background. I want to make sure all this stuff is visible. And they want to do it in this like nostalgic style.
I see that ChatGPT doesn't know the difference between Futura condensed, extra bold, and just Futura, but
No, but that's a great call out, because typography is actually an important thing in the mix here, where people be like, wow, it's generating these ads. And like, I look at these ads and be like, cool, if this was laid out on a grid, we might be able to smack. If it had the brand fonts, and I saw a handful of these where they actually did it pretty well, but like that's definitely a consideration. Logo size to brand guide, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll be able to start indicating the specific font, the bold, extra bold, medium, whatever.
What's interesting about this is people are trying to make these ads. They're trying to put in the text and stuff. I think that's almost overkill. If I looked at this and saw the raw image of the sneaker, and the sneaker was right, and the other image there, and I had that as an image I could then take into Photoshop and drop some text behind it, or in Adobe Express or whatever it looks like, and like do that to brand, that is an actual time saver. Like the image generation of this is actually good enough to be used.
Yes, 100%.
Agreed. That image alone, let's see, if you go back, that would cost, I don't know. Yeah, at a low
end?
At a low end, you're talking, I would say even like at a low end, okay, let's say it cost you $2,500. You hired a graphic design, like you're Fiverr, but Nike's not doing anything on like Fiverr or anything.
Yeah, I was like, you're doing 2 shoots. You're doing a shoot in studio and a shoot on the thing in professional, and I'm taking, hey, there's other assets that are getting taken, and so this asset, you walked out of there at a 5 to 8K.
Yep, totally. Yeah, just incredible.
All right, what's next up?
This is less so an ad, but I thought just like exploration of the kind of like depth it can give you.
And that's fun. I did this for ComplexCon with a designer. I had my model shots and all the shots of my products inside of a packaging. That this guy went and like got filters and got a thing and generated one asset and did the other and like put it together. And the fact that they could like do this from some images is pretty tight.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, so we're looking at a toy packaging scenario. I've seen a few people like toy with this, no pun intended.
And this is good. This kind of stuff is where I feel like it really shines. Again, it's not an ad per se. They're not trying to add text on it. It doesn't go right into it. But you can take an art direction concept in a thing that is not necessarily photorealistic and execute it really quickly to vision and then create iterations of it is like a fun thing I think we're going to see a lot of brands play on really fast.
Yes.
Wow.
This is slop.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Slop has a reason to exist, but that exists for a tweet, not for an ad.
Of course.
But could you make a campaign with that same idea? Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's a Adidas one, exactly.
Yeah.
Again, the imagery you're getting there, and they added the shoe pick. It's accurate pick. That's super fucking useful. That is genuinely going to put some product photographers out of business.
1000%. And graphic designers.
Well, I just feel like on the design, that typography and this shit like that, it's just not, it's, maybe it'll get there. I'm sure it will get there over time, but like still not useful. Like, this would need, a designer needs to go through this. The layout is bad. The way they draw. One thing I think people don't understand when you get to design and, oh, is this going to perform as an ad, is how the human eye works. That's a big part of like what design looks like, is that, hey, you actually don't want that title that big. And you want the hero of this to be that shoe in a proportion. And then have the Adidas lower. And you'll be like, why isn't this ad performing as well as the other ads? And it's like, yeah, guess what? Like the layout actually does matter.
And it's actually interesting to like juxtapose these two that we're looking at. In the response, they show an actual maybe original. Oh no, someone else had tried it using a 70s thing.
Yeah.
But all of these would be magazine features, not a digital ad that's a 5x4 that you're swiping through on Facebook or Instagram.
Well, I think I think it's an interesting point because like the whole, like one of the premises of creative testing on Meta or Instagram is just like, can you get people to stop and pay attention to what you're doing? There was like this era of hyper polished ads, and then there's this era of like ugly ads. There's like entire agencies that are like, hey, ugly ads are the strategy, which is like super lo-fi, UGC, like write stuff on pen and paper, just take a shot of it as if like you're just one person sending like a shitty screenshot to someone else. So I think there's a world where like these kind of like vintage magazine ads can play decently on Meta. It's just a question of like, hey, if the style gets saturated really quickly, if 1,000 brands are like running this tomorrow, then people are going to get tired of that and it's going to become less effective. So it's just a question of like, what is the next new like template or style that you can like figure out?
Well, there's a middle ground in these ads are living in what I call like the useless middle ground of meta ads. And we talk about this a lot because everyone's talking about creative scale now, where it's like you have to run more meta ads. And basically you have your polished ads, your campaign ads, things you thought you shot with intention. That's like number one. And then to Ashwin's point, you have the ugly ads. Post-it notes, text messages, straight UGC, and there's performers usually in both. But then what you usually get is the middle, where someone will try a bunch of variations on the UGC, and we're going to add a few titles and try to make it in the middle. Or, hey, we're just going to make a bunch of not as good variations of the core campaign creative. And that's usually all this stuff that like eats budget and eats testing that actually wastes money. That's like probably a bigger conversation.
Mm-hmm.
This, for instance, is like, so my other shot would look, this shot, I don't know if you can blow it up, but basically my key question on all of these is like, this is actually useful, actually looks good. It's in the Instagram font, whatever it is. Is the bottle true to size is always my question on that.
And
like,
we're looking at like, it's basically a realistic low light bathroom selfie of a woman with a towel on her head holding this product.
She looks very real. That's a very good one.
Yeah.
1000%. I found, as I was like mocking with this the other day, every iteration that you take, it actually makes the image more hyper realistic and gets you more like refined and sharpened and less realistic.
Dude, the lawyer in the chat on this responding, Rob Freund, who's on here and very correct.
Yeah.
And like basically buzzkilled all of money Twitter for a while, so much that a bunch of these bros were just like, we're getting off here.
Yeah.
But he's like, this would violate the FTC's endorsement regardless because it's not made clear that this is AI generated. And it's like, yeah, guess what, brother? Who the fuck is going to hunt that shit down or even be able to tell? Because they could be like, oh, that's just Julie. Like no one has, it's like, we're in that world where like that argument ain't gonna fly. Yeah.
Rob would have a heart attack if he saw how like 94% of supplement brands sell on.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it put Rob in Obvi's brand account for 4 seconds. And
Can you imagine Rob on TikTok, like affiliate links and TikTok shop? Oh my gosh.
One of my favorite ones was there was like OG money Twitter has faded a lot. Basically like gray area, make money. And there was a dude from there who used to do like Instagram theme pages, and he put one of those threads like making 10K a month in Instagram theme pages. You're gonna get like, 40 Marvel clips. You're gonna do X and Y. And Rob's just in the replies being like, "Don't do this. Like this is blatantly illegal. You're gonna get sued." It was just like, and I was like, this is the end of an era. The lawyers are here.
Rob is a good follow though. For people who don't know, what's his last name?
Excellent follow. There's all these kids who got their first 10K doing stuff like that, who are just like when that era is just gone.
Yeah, it's like Rob Friend or something. He's a lawyer who's based in advertising and celebrity and whatnot. He's good.
He's an excellent follow because whenever I have a question like that, I just go, this guy probably has a tweet and like scroll through it until I find it. And the hit rate is astonishingly high.
I mean, he had someone sued the sneaker blogs for like using their content, and they won like settlements. And it's always bothered me. One of the things, a lot of these now ESPN, CBS, all of them are essentially just they're just curating content. They're just pulling it from people and using it. Sometimes they'll send you a DM like, can we use this, or comment. A lot of times
they put it up there.
Yeah, they just put it up there.
This happened to me. It's happened to Christian. They were putting Christian's TikToks on Fox News.
Yes, it's crazy because I had like some early Coach Prime stuff. I was at his first game and was on the field, and nice kicks and others. So I usually they're pulling my stuff and getting 4 or 5 million views on a video, which is anyway. That's just one of my huge pet peeves. People who are, anyway.
All right. This is my friend James's, I think it's his girlfriend's brand. And I saw this and I was like, oh, this is like actually like an editorial photo. Looks more like it's shot medium format.
Wow.
And it's accurate I always talk about accuracy to bottle, where I'm like, cool, this is like 3 centimeters wrong. But that's how close we are to something good.
Yeah.
Yeah, in week 1.
And then Imam Ghazi's in WAP. We're not going to have the WAP conversation on here. But this one I thought was interesting and kind of in the Jordan Alley.
Interesting.
This is where I think the most use comes from. They're trying to do too much. They're like in the prompt, they're like, put the Adidas logo on there, put the other, don't give a shit about any of that. That's actually, this makes it a bad ad. Adidas would never have these big ass logos on this. This is good. This is actually fucking useful. Is like, we're going to put the logo and turn it into a sand sculpture.
It's a pyramid.
Yeah, the pyramid. Yeah.
Also, I love the 2 stripes at the bottom.
Oh, fascinating.
But I was like, cool. Ignore the woman, ignore anything else. Give me this. That is a useful thing for a campaign.
Yeah, it's very interesting. This David one is fascinating.
Pretty good because it actually got the package right.
Yeah.
Feels a little fake, but again, if you're running this as a static, Ashwin, would you run this as a static?
I tried as a static, yeah.
Yeah, me too. So this passes the litmus test to me. My only comment is like, okay, this is not what the David bar looks like, but it doesn't matter.
Yep.
For our listeners, when you're talking about running a static, do you mean running a still image for paid media?
In your ad account.
Paid social, yeah. Got it.
Battle of the Flakes? I don't know. Would y'all run this as a static?
Battle the Flakes, I think, this is a dandruff.
Yeah, yeah.
Perhaps. Yeah.
I'm skipping it.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Hexclad, Oren.
Well,
We're in your wheelhouse.
Well, the
it's
pan
not.
is
It's not a hexclad pan,
We're in
so
your kitchen.
that's already useless. Like it doesn't have the hexes. So what's the point?
Ah, touche. Saratoga water.
The
Water with
image generation again actually useful. The text. This is like not centered. Like the H is over justified on the period. The W is over here. The Saratoga is actually like it's off.
Yeah.
But again, the image I think is actually useful.
Agreed.
I think, I think to that point, like generating the images or generating the settings where you can drop things in and you can actually go in and create that like on brand text with text that actually makes sense and is like properly aligned. I mean, I was doing this yesterday a ton. I probably generated like 20 ads for Sunpowder and I just like generated the image asset and then like I overlaid all of the text.
This was one where I was like, cool, like this image is a little strange, but I think that's the point.
Hand proportions are
Hand proportions are weird.
very weird.
And then this was one where I got in the conversation where this guy was like, he's been posting a ton of these ads and leading the conversation around this, which good for him. I respect that. Literally, I don't see how people can see these AI ads suck. And then it's me in the comments being like, this ad sucks because Laurel's is a fraction of that size. This is a weird AI woman. This text is wrong.
Totally. The sizing, it's like.
And I just don't think anyone would click.
Well, brother, let us tell you.
Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, like it's pretty incredible overnight.
So what does this mean for career stuff? So basically, I look at it like image generation, design. I don't even look at it as if your job's gone. I just look at it as if the expectation of the quality of assets and the expectation of the volume of assets just rose.
Absolutely. I think my overall biggest take on AI as it relates to marketers and creatives is that the value on being a good creative just rose even higher. And it's always been the case. So you need to be able to outthink bigger, think higher, think better than the slop and the AI. There's going to be a bunch of AI slop now. So now we just looked and all of those ads are kind of the same if you really think about it, you know, like fairly large text. Okay. They're perhaps useful, but now the value will be in, can you make something smarter than a computer that actually relates to a human being? And can you use your humanity to figure out how to connect with human beings in a way that a robot can't?
Yeah, I was using the Artlist, who I do like monthly videos with, has a video generator that's very good. That is, they're debuting. I'm in like the beta for. That has like 20 preset styles or whatever. But you can generate video. Like I was doing cartoon videos and like drawing videos and then some like nostalgic looking videos that were excellent. And I was like, okay, this is the closest video's ever been. I could go fill in B-roll on one of my videos without any problem. Like that is solved. But then I was like, okay, so what is really the difference here is that the middle is just now going to be filled with just crap.
Yes.
But then every little thing around storytelling, nuance, hook, suspense is super important. But also a bigger point is that cultural orchestration is now massively important. Because basically your ability to say, these are the people involved, this is the cultural moment or the insight we're playing into that taps into people, and then this is the rollout. This is how we understand social media to push it, or this is how we understand strategy to distribute, is ultra, ultra, ultra critical.
Yeah. I also think that this frees you up to be more creative. The thing that I feel really bummed about, and I will use in our own processes, but my corporate job at Nike was filled with so much mindless crap that I would be like, you are paying me to be creative, and yet I have to do the same run a show that we've used 1,000 times, or come up with some stupid athlete Q&A that we do every time we do this. There's a repeatable formula, but you're like spending time doing these just mindless, stupid things, taking notes in meetings when you're a junior employee. Those are now things that AI can remove from you so that you can actually put your creative brain to use. And I think this summary of our podcast in getting the highlights, like that stuff like that is amazing. Being able to fill in a graphic that we just need really quickly to promote the pod, like that to me seems very useful. And I think it can remove that mindless stuff so that you can actually free up more of the creative brain.
Yeah, I mean, if I think about just ways that I have been using this, I think it's less about like the creative output from an image standpoint. So I'll give you kind of like walkthrough of what I did this week. I did deep research with Jordan. I don't know if you've used that part, if that's like on GPT Pro, but you can give it a prompt and I use this a lot for like market research and like sizing like certain audiences and spaces. But for Sun Powder, I wanted it to do like deep psychographic research on the 40 to 60-year-old like women's skincare market. Like what are their motivations? What are they saying in Reddit threads and Amazon reviews? And like what have they written about? And this is all the type of research that I would do manually. Like I would sit and read like every comment in Reddit threads on popular Reddit threads to understand like what are they using, what's not working for them, like what are their attitudes and beliefs about this. I give it a really detailed prompt, and then it thinks for like 11 minutes, goes and does all of the research, and then spits out like a equivalent of like a 20-page report with all of the sources on this. And so I take in that insight and I'm like, okay, great, let's like summarize like 3 or 4 of these insights and turn them into angles for Sun Powder. Like where do you think we're missing the mark with some of the ads that I've made or some of the language that I've made? And then it'll be like, hey, like with these 2 ads, it actually hits this mark this way, but I would change the visual this way. And like I know how to think about this because I've done this, and I look at it and I'm like, hey, that's actually a good insight. Like that's a good perspective of how I should change this ad. So I think when you can layer in like feeding it data, having it do research, giving it some of your own thoughts and language, and then saying, hey, refine my thinking around this, I think it's an inordinately powerful tool.
Absolutely.
But again, if you're going in there, and this is probably what like Oren and I saw a lot on Twitter this week, people are like, hey, I'm going to take like this brand's template from their Facebook ad library and like, let me just copy it and like paste it because like that brand's doing $200 million. It's like, dude, the messaging makes no sense on this. The ad is kind of shitty. And like, just because that visual worked for that, like you're drastically simplifying every other aspect of how that product is unique and the audience that they're going after. You don't even know if it's a winning ad for them. So it's like a lot of like,
I've had this creeping feeling on Twitter the last like 6 months that I'm like, most of these people who are in this D2C marketing thing, they're lucky to have their job,
Yeah.
and they're learning what they are, but they are just have not actually really done this. And then this really cemented that, where I was like, oh, you guys just don't. There's people here really haven't been in like on real marketing teams, had real marketing mentorship, dealt with this like in any significant way, or really had their fingers on the pulse of an ad account that performs. And that became very apparent, and to the point where like I just really don't want to be on the app while this conversation continues because it's just really frustrating for me. And I get there's exceptions. There are if you were launching an Amazon brand in 2018 where you just needed assets. The number one thing was you want to have search, you want to have assets that are decent, and the branding and shit didn't matter. This would be a fucking field day. But even on Amazon now, it's like branded content and like the call outs matter and like all of this is added up.
Yeah, you have to know what you're doing.
If you have a shady small business, or you're running a nail salon and need some new branding, or you're trying to be like what this, you have a bunch of good options. Local services businesses being able to do kind of quick ads for this stuff. You're like, and you're doing stuff that's low stakes. Amazing tool.
Well, I actually think I was having this conversation last night of like, if you're in the creative agency space or in like the services space, right? You do like photo shoots, videography, like you create some of these assets, like social assets, social media management, whatever that is. There are audiences that are probably like more tech savvy that are just going to do this in-house because they're like, hey, we have that person on like marketing and like they know how to use ChatGPT and like prompt stuff like well enough to generate assets for us. So great, we no longer need to pay you $7,000 a month to like retain your services. But if you are that like local HVAC business or like local services business where it's like no one on your team is like wants to be on the internet like doing this stuff every day, like their business is so far outside of it, you actually still have so much leverage servicing them and doing like far more volume, far more output, far greather work.
And yeah, just making better creative.
Just make better creative.
Yeah, with probably less time. So I think I agree that that's where the interesting opportunity is there.
I'll make a prediction where I think we will move similar to we do in the artisan space now, where it's like, oh, well, you could get that couch or that furniture for, very cheap at IKEA or whatever. I think that maybe not ads particularly, but storytelling, films, photography, animation. You see a lot of people talking about this animator that's, being ripped off quite a bit. And I think there will now be, as we have a label that says made with AI, there will also be like the label, like a human made this. And it will try to inspire some awe and, fascination because you're like, oh, wow, well, you could have used AI to do this, but an actual human being is making this really beautiful thing. And that's fascinating.
Well, on that point, we were talking about the editorial shot of Berber, whatever that like little skincare brand like that James Camp's or whatever. We look at that editorial shot and it's like, hey, maybe it's not perfect right now, but it's probably going to be it's pretty damn close, and it'll probably be there within like 6 months. So then it's like, okay, if we have all of these brands, skincare, fashion, whatever, being able to do these like really nice editorial shoots, and then you start seeing that stuff on Instagram, and if people start realizing like, hey, is it AI or is it real? Like that permeates the consciousness. I think there is going to be even more of an opportunity for brands that actually do the real editorial shoot and do the full like behind the scenes. It's almost like the recording of the video of doing a real thing is going to be far more valuable than like
the
the end output.
orchestration is like I think it just becomes a massive point here of like, because even the little stuff like, hey, you could get the free animator, but okay, if you got the animator with the social media following and the people are tapped in, it just kind of accelerates this like, hey, every model should be an influencer and they should be contracted to post inside of it, and it's like all the things to get things to resonate. Like whoever's orchestrating that, like the CD job, for lack of a better term, is like becomes super critical.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like in it's both and like the human capital probably just got reduced and things will be able to be outsourced much easier, but it also, there became a much higher premium on it as well.
The last note I know we want to get into some people here is one thing I have seen is like, there's a couple people not on Twitter. I saw some people post quick and then it moved, but like I'm in a group chat with like some A+ level designers who were sharing what they're doing on it, like very like sneakily, and being like, hey, if you actually care enough to prompt and you have that skill set, like all of a sudden they're entering into some like very high level stuff like very fast. So I also think there's going to be some like, there's an enabling of like super designers between that and like all the stuff happening obviously with like Cursor and all that kind of shit where they're just like more capable than ever, like completely weaponized, like don't need to go ask the photographer, ask the 3D CG artist for stuff. And like I feel like the best people just got better.
Totally agree. What if you're young? What if you're starting your career right now? What if you were like 25, maybe coming out of college? What are you focusing on to separate yourself in a career?
I mean, if you have to know the tools, I would be like, how do you not waste time in the tools while actually learning the tools? Like, for instance, like if I was like in this conversation, I'd be like, great, I'm going to become good at image generation of this. I'm not going to spend 1,000,000 hours on it, but if I dedicated an hour a day for the next week or two to like make sure I'm savvy enough to generate interesting images off this without worrying about the text aspect, that'd be great. And the psychology and strategy of making things not slop. Mm-hmm. What is the insight that leads the ad? What is the actual like the rule of thirds and shit like that like makes things perform? I would be like be really focusing on like, all right, I want this hard skill set that like actually allows me to determine by my instinct and by my skill set whether something is going to be better than something else and whether it stands out above the slop crowd. Because most people can't discern that. They don't have the eye or the insight to be able to do that.
Yeah. I just want to add to that. I thought it was so interesting. I went down a rabbit hole of this Rory Sutherland character who is like the brand grandfather, the vice chairman of Ogilvy. And he said that they basically don't hire marketing majors. They hire psychology majors and sometimes others. I felt so justified because I've often told people like, what do you need to study? Like the books that you need to read. I think, Ashwin, you have like a lot of actually good tactical ones. But for me, I've always felt like understand human evolution, understand sociology and the way crowds work, understand the motivations of human beings. And that is like what can help you cut through in a market like this where you're trying to communicate to people and like get them to do something and figure out what they're motivated by. And I felt like that was really interesting that they're only hiring those because one, they're grateful to have a job, and two, they've actually learned what motivates human beings.
It's funny. I think about that a lot because my majors were design and sociology. And I was like, cool, that is actually super foundational to how I think about everything. Yeah.
Yes. Perfect. I mean,
so what do you think about advice for young people?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's like, number one, I think you have to be using these tools and like getting very good at like prompting and like refining things. But again, if you're using them from a design, if one way you're using them from a design standpoint is like, you have to have the foundations locked in. When you and I are looking at some of these assets that people are like, oh, this looks amazing. Like it's over for every designer. And you look at like the text is all like jacked up. The proportions are all wrong. And like, you instantly know like, hey, the wrong things are competing for attention and like things just need to be sized differently. Well, great. You get that from like a basic foundational understanding of graphic design, type placement, type rhythm,
Go buy Hans Cheekhold's The New Typography and grid and roster systems.
Yeah.
And I know, and you'll be like, why am I? And then just learn. Yeah.
Yes. 100%. I think that's it.
All right, boys. Are we gonna?
Yeah.
Should we talk Saratoga Water? What do we?
What's the? We have a couple things on here. Yeah. What are the stunts that happened this week?
I mean, Saratoga Water is probably the thing.
It's probably the biggest one since. I mean, bigger than that Stanley car fire one.
I mean,
Yes.
I feel it's a bit done to death, but we can give it the cursory 2 minutes. I'm curious. I made a video on this, but I'm curious what y'all take is on the Saratoga Water.
Their like last 4 posts on Instagram, they've like continued to lean into it. Moment's kind of over, but they're still doing it, and like they're still squeezing whatever juice they can out of it. It's funny because when I first saw it happening, it like happened on a Saturday, Sunday afternoon. There's still nothing from Saratoga Water, and I'm like, okay, like as expected, they probably don't even know anything is going on, and I think there is like obviously they got so much like they don't have to do anything. I think that was the point of like Oren's video. It was like they're this like luxury like premium brand. They don't have to enter this conversation. Like whatever they do, it's just going to get like a fraction of a percentage point like more reach than they're already getting from all of the organic shares and like memification of this concept. So I think like staying out is completely fine. I also think like if you're going to lean into it or do something, there is a way to like tap into the moment in a smart way or like in a very time sensitive way. You know, they're doing this stuff, but like, okay, if it's say it's maybe it's like Monday, you know, one of the lines he's like, yo, we got to get to 10,000, right? So it's like, all right, if I'm Saratoga, is there something that I do where it's like, I know I'm going to see this lift in sales and retail, like they don't even sell online, they sell on Instacart. Do I do something where it's like, tag us with your Saratoga Water and your receipt that you bought today, and like we're choosing 10 winners who are going to get $10,000, and then does that generate momentum of people like buying and sharing it?
Yeah, the biggest thing I was mentioning, and I kind of like I only cover so much in the video, but like what I would be doing if I was a brand in that position is basically activating your partners super hard, being like, cool, I don't even care about my organic social, to the point of like, we're not good at it. We know we're not good at it. We're going to get 0.1% lift on this campaign. Doesn't matter. But to every retailer that has it, I'm like, I want end caps right now. Your merchandising team needs to do this today. And you need to think about our placement for the future as this new viral water and leveraging that for as much foot traffic as possible. And also running the coupons. Cool, first time purchase. We're getting $3 off this week, whatever it is. Get those first time consumers into Saratoga and let your merchant, like let every retailer know that you're a thing that they should be leveraging on. And you will basically give you a lift that maybe it's not a 200% lift, but are you going to get a 20% lift for 8 or 10 months off re-merchandising? Probably.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable what can happen. I thought you brought up some great points. Y'all should go check out Oren's video if you haven't.
I think those are great points, and I think like if you're a brand like in retail like that, right? How does a brand actually get that done from their sales team and from their merchandising team? That's where it's like, as a brand, everyone knows we're like sponsored by Platform. They're a brokerage that helps brands get into retail and scale in retail. Target, Costco, Walmart, they have very deep relationships. But that kind of strategy and that kind of thinking where it's like, hey, we have this moment to activate, we have to act really fast. When you have a partner like them that you can say, hey, call the Walmart guys, call the Target guys, call Costco, and be like, hey, we need this done ASAP, like help us execute on this, because it's kind of Herculean task. A partner like Platform is perfect in a scenario like that because of their deep relationships.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I mean, this stuff is happening at the speed of light. You're not going to be able to individually go do all that as a small to medium sized business, you know? So having a partner like Platform is super crucial.
Yeah.
And if you are a brand who's interested in getting into the right retail, getting strategy, check out the link below and you will see Platform's contact information. Tell them the brand fathers.
Platform Team Direct would have been on it. They would have seen the videos. They would have been, they would have hitting Walmart merchandisers. Phone would have been on, I already know.
That's right. All right, what else is top of mind this week, gents?
The ordinary eggs. We should talk about the ordinary eggs.
Ordinary eggs. Okay.
So if you are not familiar with the ordinary, because I think that has some useful context to this, they are a very science sans serif. I'll pull it up here. Based cosmetics company. Oh, okay, you already got it.
I got it. Yeah.
They are not mold breakers. Scroll down a bit through their feed. They're very standard, straightforward packaging, focused on clinical, focused on the ingredients list on here and not having anything crazy. That is their main value prop. And again, even the branding, super straightforward and stripped back, nice, simple, but not revolutionary. Yeah. So they, with Mischief, launched bodegas full of eggs.
That's the key.
In prices normal egg prices, not the prices we deal with now in New York, where eggs are $13 now. Actually, Ashwin, how much you paying for eggs out here, brother? You do your own shopping?
$25. I have my own chicken coop.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. Well, yeah, fair enough. Ashwin got that real, fucking apartment to table. But yeah, so they launched this pop-up around this kind of moment of eggs are too expensive, and basically created attention for themselves that they've never had that level of attention ever. And so I'm curious what y'all thoughts are on this.
Yeah, I thought this was I thought this was really smart. It's like it's listening to a cultural moment. It's doing it in a place where you know it's gonna like get that traction. I think they partnered with Mischief on this, so it's like an amazing viral stunt, and it ties back into their brand, which is like, hey, you're being overcharged for a lot of things that shouldn't be that expensive. We're like bringing the cost down of all of these like serums, and so we're gonna bring the cost down of eggs too. So I think it ties in that way.
Yeah, and the
I
vegan,
like
so they're a vegan skincare brand, right? Clean skincare brand.
Wow.
They have all
Okay,
these
yeah.
vegans in the
We go right
comments. And it's just
across.
like, you guys have lost the plot. You realize that all these comments, all it does is just raise exposure to the ordinary from people that aren't completely insane.
Yes. This is the plot thickens.
Who
Apparently
haven't
they
lost the
are
fucking plot. Sorry.
I know, bro. It's wild. You can't do anything on the internet without it
Respectfully
being,
to the vegans in the comments, like 2 paragraphs. Like, Jesus
yes.
Christ.
Golly. I think Mischief is the probably unsung hero here. You know, Mischief is known for just being able to have their finger on the pulse and auto virality. The
Yeah,
most
this is virality as an agency, is what Mischief is doing, which is probably their perfect end game anyway.
they really are.
But now
Whether
you're
it's
going to see, so you're going to have a bunch of brands being like, we need the ordinary moment. Just like
Yeah.
we're seeing people who now want their fucking Jaguar moment, you know, whatever that is. And so I'm curious
Yes.
what
Oh gosh.
do we have any good ideas? Is anyone we want to kind of see next? Is there any like, hey, we really want, you know, whatever water brand to do their bodega?
I guess like the larger question here for me, and I'm not familiar enough with Ordinary as a brand, is like you get all this attention. I'm sure it's done great things for them. It's better to be known than not. But I wonder if that is something that maybe they didn't think through, that now you have all these people who loved you because you were perhaps vegan, you know, some percentage of that. And now like it backfires a little bit. I think still
No one cares, dude.
yeah, no one cares.
No
Okay.
one's gonna care.
Well, also, they are a inherently boring brand.
Yes.
And that's the point. They focus on one thing and like the formulation of it. And I think at some point you get good at that. You get into retail, you run as many ads as you can with that as your brand premise, and you go, we're capped out. We cannot get brand awareness by continuing with our core message. And hats off to them for getting to the point where they probably reached that surface and saying, okay, what are we going to do to go above that? Let's not use the same playbook or grab a random celebrity or try to do some big splashy campaign. Let's do something unique. I give them a lot of credit.
Wow. Acronym doing a Mischief collab while being in lawsuits with Nike.
At end of cycle, but
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's Ordinary. I thought it was, you know, wise and clever. I don't know who would do what next. What are the cultural issues that people need? Maybe some brand will provide decent healthcare or
maybe Klarna's next with their Chipotle burrito.
Klarna's going to be giving out burritos at the border, trying to.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Every extradited person gets a Klarna burrito.
For everyone who gets deported, they get a burrito.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but you don't have to pay off the.
A coyote. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Any other notable items? I mean, we have March Madness. I thought an interesting. Oren and I last week did a sports marketing discussion on March Madness. We did not have Ashwin because he was at Buffalo Wild Wings watching all 19 games.
Injected into my eyeballs. Notre Dame.
He was rigorously reviewing his brackets.
Ashwin, you went to Notre Dame, right?
I went to Notre Dame, yeah.
Ah, yes.
And St. John's. Dual college.
So one of the fascinating things that I put a poll on my story is like, and we were having this debate, who is more famous, Kai Cenat or Giannis? I chose Speed or Anthony Edwards. And I was fascinated that it's probably the most engaged poll I've had in a really long time.
I was going to say, you had like thousands of people responding. I was like, let's go.
Thousands of people responded. And it was 50-50, Kai Cenat to Giannis, a NBA champion, global superstar. I actually think that's right. I think Kai Cenat's more famous. What I was surprised by was the Speed Anthony Edwards, which is a good choice because I think we had done like Speed, like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander or something like that, which is I think is like an easy Speed win. But the Anthony Edwards one is like a really interesting. I think that's a very, very interesting one. Yeah, and that was Speed won by a landslide. So
that's crazy. What's your demographic? Do you have a younger demographic in your followers or not really?
I mean, I would have.
I don't really on Instagram, so I assumed you wouldn't.
I thought that most people would be sports heavy, sports bias, but people, you know, seem to think that, you know, so I have a decently. Again, I think our audience is similar in that it's aspiring and then established marketers. You
Yeah,
know,
but
so I
I
have a
think it's
lot
kind
of
of that like 27 to 35. It's not
yeah,
like 18
yeah.
to 25. You know.
Guys, I did want to show my ChatGPT image generator here was
I was like,
putting
they couldn't give us a little bit of tan.
brother. I did not use them to execute this image because it was so bad when I tried to add us to this image. So,
We should have done the face swap, but yeah, no one would have got it, I guess. Yeah.
bro, I need to just show you, like, so that we don't think that these things are entirely capable of everything. Here, let me show you the
That's too bad,
journey
'cause I
that
was going to try to execute the art with the new photos that we have with this week. Yeah, like
at this point. So I said, hey, so I started this with Cristiano and Speed. So if y'all don't know, Speed is a famous streamer who's like does a lot of athletic stuff, and he worships the ground that Cristiano walks on. So a year or two ago, there was this viral moment of him getting to meet Cristiano. He was like in tears. And so I said, hey, can you swap Cristiano into a Portugal jersey, which is actually pretty amazing.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And
really well done.
really well done. And then I'm like, okay, can you actually put his shorts match the shorts? And it did that. Then I said, can you remove the security guard out of the background?
Get that man out of here.
This guy was creeping, and it did. And then I said, can you please add these two guys in the picture? Now look at what it, bro. This is the struggle. How
Bro, I'm
bad
fucking
is that?
crying, bro.
How bad is that? Like,
Oh, shit.
I was like, I said, okay. I said, make those two guys
Like, can you make these two guys completely random?
closer to the original. And so you see what I mean? Like every iteration.
Yeah, they put Dirk Nowitzki in there for me.
Totally. You're Dirk, or you're Aaron Rodgers is what.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I'm like, I don't know what I am, Gollum from Lord of the Rings, with a hat on.
Yeah. They really took us down a few pegs, you know.
Yeah. We lost the E in House of Sport, and so then anyway, I was like, I said, can you
this
get
is
these
just
guys
Jordan
out?
on like a Thursday night.
This is bro. I was like midnight, and it just got worse. So I was like, okay, I punted on this.
You look
pulled
kind of
out-
good there, but yeah, you lost me.
Yeah, I pulled it out into the.
Oh yeah, then you started trying to Photoshop famous golfers. I see what you're doing late at night, bro.
I'm working on a project for next week, and I said, can you put Pat Perez and Fat Perez in a picture together? And it did pretty freaking good, man. I'm not gonna lie. So anyway, that was a fun
this is
journey.
some insights into the dark and twisted mind of Jordan Rodgers.
Grandfather.
It's like 78 prompts of him trying to get you two into the Cristiano.
That's so funny, bro. I love it.
Oh, so fun. Oh, so fun. So in that case, and you know, that was our thumbnail.
So if you've been fired because of AI and you're listening to this, please come into the marketing confessional for next week. Slide into Ashwin's DMs. If you've been promoted because of AI, you know, feel free to gloat in the comments on Spotify or YouTube.
Indeed.
Any other calls to action here? Sign up for the newsletter if you want to get these campaigns sent out every week.
We're about to break 1,000 on YouTube, so maybe we'll do some type of giveaway or something.
Subscribe on
Break
YouTube.
that.
Yeah, George's gonna give away some PR.
Yeah, just oh my gosh, we got a lot of that. And we're honestly open to feedback. So y'all let us know what you like, what you don't like. Do you want us to be talking about high level stuff more? Do you like the tactical? What's the weekly things to stay up to date? Do we need more sports or more CPG? You let us know. And we will see everybody next week. Thanks for tuning in. It's been real. Bye.